If past is prologue, if history is any guide, at least one day this August, there'll be a mammoth news story. And all the reporters are on vacation, all the anchors and executive producers and editors, all of them, because they were born to be in the news business. All of them will say, damn, I'm sorry I'm on vacation. I love covering big stories. Well, that day has not arrived today. There's no mammoth story, but there are any number of interesting stories. Probably just pretend I'm working for Headline News and just run through the headlines. The Attorney General announced that there's a grand jury. Well, she didn't announce it. It was reported that there's a grand jury now convened to deal with the Russiagate conspiracy allegations. I like to call it Russiagate. And it'll be interesting to see how any grand jury deals with the statute of limitations on this case, Russiagate, statute of limitations. So we'll talk about that. The Democratic legislators from Texas remain on the lam and defiant, and their Democratic gubernatorial colleagues threatening mid-census redistricting to match what Texas is planning to do. More fallout from the president's firing of the Bureau of Labor Statistics chief, and some developments on the campaign trail. Sarah Sanders with Mike Johnson in Israel. That's not really the campaign trail, but Elizabeth Warren campaigning with Mr. Mamdani, Nancy Mace announcing she's running for governor of South Carolina. And the president's one appearance today from, I think that's a White House handout video, addressed the White House interns. We'll have full team coverage of all of this and more on tonight's very special episode of Two-Way Tonight. Let's run through the rules for those of you playing for the first time. We put 60 seconds on the clock, $500 jackpot available each round, and you can phone a friend at any time. If you'd like to be in on the conversation here, please raise your electronic hand. If you're in the two-way platform, if you're watching on X or on YouTube, do not put smack in the chat. And for all of you, think about it. Peace, love, and understanding every second, every moment. Every time you're tempted to write smack in the chat, don't do it, because you extend the presumption of grace to all. This program is dedicated to the principles of free speech. Now, free speech doesn't mean we can cover everything. And another one of my regular rejoinders to those of you who love to email me, because you know I'm just sitting around waiting to answer emails, got nothing better to do. If you email me and say, Mark, your show is a sham of a mockery of two shams of a mockery because you didn't cover X, or you haven't covered Y enough. This program's an hour. We got a lot of Sydney Sweeney to cover. We got a lot of Elizabeth Warren to cover. We got a lot of Jonathan Turley, Ken Paxton. We're covering a lot. But I can guarantee you this, there's not a single day we will cover every story. Not one. Does it mean if we don't cover Mr. Witkoff's trip to Gaza that we don't think that's important? No. No, it's very important. And maybe some days we will, but we have to make choices every day. What are we going to cover? Can't cover everything. And I'll tell you this, just because we don't cover something on a given day or maybe ever doesn't mean we don't think it's important. Sometimes it's because it's happened too far in the past. Might have happened 20 hours ago, and we try to stay au courant. And sometimes just, slips through the cracks. But sometimes we look at it and we say, which is more important, the future of the people of Gaza and of Israel, or a Sydney Sweeney Gene ad? We have to make that choice, the tough choices, the kind of choices Edward R. Murrow made. And do we always make them right? No, we don't. But we make them. We do our best. So feel free to keep telling me what I'm doing wrong. I'm happy to hear from you. Some people would say I'm thin-skinned about criticism. Au contraire, I welcome it. But if it's crazy and off base and unfair, well, what do you want me to do? Say, oh, yes, I agree. We cannot cover everything. Now, here's the beauty of two-way. If you think something should be covered here, rather than send me an email or rather than rail at me on the chat on YouTube, come on the platform and raise your hand. And guess what? You can bring up Mr. Witkoff's trip to Gaza or anything else you want, and we'll happily discuss it. So, yes, we're going to cover Elizabeth Warren saying Mondami is the future of the Democratic Party. Don't worry, emailer. We'll cover that. And a whole bunch of other things with our guests, our outstanding guests, our returning guests. I'm not saying they've appeared on this show more than anyone else ever, but they might hold that title, both individually and collectively. Ladies and gentlemen, our returning champion, three-time champion, hailing from Tucson, Arizona. He loves jazz, long walks on the beach, and Mugu Gaipan. Matt Gorman, ladies and gentlemen. Matt Gorman. Welcome back, Matt.
Good to be here, Mark. Thank you for having me.
I love Matt Gorman coming on the show, and I've already asked him this question on the air, so I'm not going to ask him again. But you all can see Matt Gorman in the biggest cable news and broadcast news venues around. He's a man's a Meet the Press panelist, for God's sakes, the granddaddy of them all. Matt Gorman can be on any show he wants, and yet he returns here for the free rice-a-roni and the camaraderie.
That's right.
Matt Gorman, thank you for coming back. We love having you on. Truly honored. I mean, look, it's not Scott Jennings.
No.
But if you can't get Scott Jennings, this is if you look in the host playbook, page 3, if Scott Jennings is not available, go for Gorman. And then on his Democratic doppelganger counterpart, camaraderie, I forget the word. Frere, is that the word? Is that a French word? Anyway, Brian Wolff is here. Brian Wolff, former Capitol Hill aide and man about town, and again, another returning guest, and couldn't be more honored and delighted to have you back, Brian. Brian, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, gentlemen, let's just run through the news together and then get ready for questions. The hands are already flying up. Once I announced we had Wolff and Gorman, everyone's like, oh, my goodness, I got a lot of questions. Here we go. This is how Fox News covered the breaking news earlier today that the Attorney General has ordered a grand jury investigation into what some people call, with or without air quotes, a Russian hoax. Roll number 2, please.
News can confirm that Attorney General Pam Bondi today signed an order directing an unnamed U.S. federal prosecutor to take evidence to a grand jury relating to an alleged conspiracy to tie then 2016 candidate Donald Trump to the country of Russia. Now, Fox News reviewed the one-page order just hours ago signed by the Attorney General. A source familiar with the probe confirms this as well, while a DOJ spokesperson declined to comment on this report of an investigation. Fox is told Attorney General Bondi is taking the referrals from Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, quote, very seriously. The spokesperson says that Bondi believes there is, quote, clear cause for deep concern, end quote, and a need for the next steps. Now, this move comes just a couple of weeks after the Director of National Intelligence, you see her right there, Tulsi Gabbard, sent a criminal referral to the Justice Department regarding what she says proves there was a conspiracy to undermine Trump's candidacy and later his first term in office. Now, to be clear today, there are no charges that have been filed, no indictments. This is incredibly early in the process. What we have here is taking evidence the Justice Department believes it has to a grand jury to secure an eventual indictment or indictments. We don't know exactly where the grand jury will meet. We don't know who will go before the grand jury, and that's by design, because grand juries determine if there's enough evidence to indict, and grand juries are secretive in the American legal system, so it's normal not to know all of the answers. Again, the DOJ declining on any comment regarding this investigation. But, Will, big news, this was signed by the Attorney General Pam Bondi today to take this evidence of an alleged conspiracy to a grand jury with the hope to get an indictment or multiple indictments.
All right, and here's conservative legal analyst Jonathan Turley with his analysis of the analysis. Number 3, please.
Is the first necessary step to finding out about the real Russian conspiracy. There never was a Russian collusion conspiracy. That was hatched by the Clinton campaign. They secretly funded the Steele dossier. They denied that to the media. And they laid out this very successful political hit job using the media, using the government. It's amazing how much the public still doesn't know. But in the last few weeks, this administration has given us information that we haven't seen before. I've been following this, writing about it for years. Some of this is new stuff, and it's startling.
All right, Brian, let's start with you. We try to keep a total open mind on this story, and there are people I like and respect who say this is bigger than Watergate, and there are people who I like and respect who say there's a bunch of hooey. Let's press you towards not just saying it's hooey. If there's a there, if there's something legitimate to investigate, either criminal or just as a matter of public record, what do you see as worthy of investigation in this whole matter, if anything?
Well, I think we have the responsibility to the American people to be transparent and to look and see what's there. But, Mark, I just go back to a previous two-way that you did, where we litigated already the bipartisan congressional committee that looked at this, and determined that there was nothing there. So, I think this is more of, President Trump is doing what he said he was going to do. He said that he was going to actually go after the sort of adversaries, that had come after him. And, he's very much playing that way. And I think that Tulsi Gabbard and Pam Bondi, everyone is, it's no secret that everyone is playing to the president and doing what he wants to see done. So I don't think that any of this is a surprise. And quite frankly, Mark, just to jump ahead, I would not be surprised if there is some further in-depth investigation beyond a grand jury that happens. This is just, this is where we are. We're in the extremes right now. And, there's a lot of outrage going on across the country with regard to everything that's happened politically. So I am not surprised by this. I think it's more of the same. Again, I lean back on, and people should read the hearing transcripts from the bipartisan congressional committee that reviewed this material. It should not be material going forward, but we'll see.
All right, Brian, I appreciate every word you said, but I'll ask you again, because I truly do listen closely and appreciate every word, truly. Is there anything that you think is worthy of investigation that you've heard, or you think to the extent things need to be investigated, they have, and there's no there?
Well, I think there are probably snippets on both sides, if you think about it. It's no secret that Putin wanted Trump and played in that direction all along with regards to a lot of the propaganda that was out there. So I don't think there's any secret either side of this, that there are probably facts out there that needed to be investigated. But again, they've done that.
So, Matt, I know a lot of Republicans feel like just the fact that the Hillary Clinton campaign laundered money to pay for the Steele dossier, then had Steele share it with the FBI so they could leak that this dossier was with the FBI. Just that piece, a lot of Republicans are outraged at. What is out there that you are most interested in seeing fleshed out? Which narrative thread, if any?
A couple things. I think Clapper and Brennan, I think, are very much at the tip of this. Look, a lot of ink goes to Obama's role in this, and I get it. But like on a functional and tactical level, Brennan and Clapper, I think, are the tip of the spear. And also, I will say this. Look, I was at the NRCC in the 2018 cycle, so when Trump took office until the end of his first midterms, and every damn day it felt like we were just getting deluged with dumb crap about Russia and how Democrats would say that Russia, quote, hacked the election. And I later worked for an election machine manufacturer, not anyone in the news. It was a totally different company. But you would have been shocked about when they would go around and talk to election officials. I'm not talking about volunteers that show up for 12 hours on election day, but like actual paid people that work in the states and that are employed by the cities and towns and municipalities. So many of them thought Russia actually changed votes in 2016. And it's false, right? And so I think there is such scar tissue among our party about what we had to deal with, all the BS. And then certainly Trump and the White House feel like that really cast a pall over his first term. And so I can't really overestimate that kind of specter over all of this.
Yeah. Do either of you think that regular voters, not fans of cable news or even this program, that regular voters who don't think much about politics, that this is an issue they care about? Either of you think that the regular voters care about this?
I think that they remember it. I think they remember it well from the campaign. To Matt's point, and Matt, I would just want to ask you the question. I mean, don't you actually think that that inured to Donald Trump's benefit more than Hillary Clinton with what Putin was putting out there and the propaganda that they actually discovered that was clearly coming from the Russians? So wouldn't you think that he probably benefited from that more than she did?
What I would say to that is I think the issue that I always have is that, for example, right? Here's an example. So if Vladimir Putin says, yes, I want Trump to win, immediately the press takes it at face value and doesn't try to realize that Putin's effing with you. But when Kamala, last time around, when he says, I want Kamala to win, everyone takes a skeptical eye. I think that the press wanted to believe that there was some link. It was under the next rock, turning the next page, that would be some conclusive proof that they bought into every narrative, thinking that this would get them the smoking gun, and it never did.
And I'll just say finally, and it sort of goes without saying, but and some have said it, the treatment by Donald Trump on this issue by the Washington Post and New York Times, for which they won Pulitzers, there's no analog for that with the shoe on the other foot. There's no Democratic president who has gone through what the Washington Post and New York Times put Donald Trump through. And I'll say again to the tens of millions watching on the left, you have to appreciate how people on the right feel about this, how outraged they are by it. Forget every other aspect of this story. You cannot have two dominant national newspapers who claim to be fair try to destroy a president based on crap and then never apologize for it, never explain it, never fire anybody. You just have to understand that, how strongly the left would feel. And Brian, if it happened to your party, and it couldn't happen to your party because the Washington Post and New York Times would never do it to a Democrat, you'd be outraged. So just keep trying to remind people of that. Part of what fuels this, I think the left thinks what fuels this is Donald Trump's vindictiveness and determination to get revenge. And there's no doubt that plays a role here. And he would like Brennan and Clapper to be in prison, I have no doubt, or at least have to spend millions in legal bills. But it is fueled, the energy for this, for the most part, is fueled by the absolute incredulity that the people on the right have about what happened. All right, let's talk about Texas. I confess I'm not that interested in this story because Texas will eventually redistrict, and these blue states probably won't. So all this sort of fake drama about will the Democratic legislators be able to stop Texas from doing it? No, eventually they'll do it. Will the blue states follow suit and offset? No, they probably won't. Because like in New York, which is a lot of discussion today because of Kathy Hochul hosting some of these, they'd need to pass a constitutional amendment to do this. Now, could they? They might, but I doubt it. I doubt it. So here is Washington Post headline number 4. Texas governor followed through on what he said he would do. He issued warrants for civil arrests for the fleeing Democrats. Again, they're eventually going to go home because their families are at home. But for now, I don't think we're seeing Texas, what do you call them? Texas Rangers flying into O'Hare. Here is, this guy, James Tallarico, is a Texas representative who went on Joe Rogan, and he's been on a bunch of other stuff. He is like Beto O'Rourke on steroids. They're just being seen as the future of not just the Democratic Party in Texas, but nationally. Here he is in an interview earlier today. I think an interview number 7, please.
We're breaking quorum now because this is different. Trump has asked those same Texas Republicans to redraw the Texas maps to get him 5 more seats. They're doing it in the middle of the decade. This is like 2 teams coming out of the locker room at halftime of a football game, and the team that's ahead saying they want to change the rules in the second half to make sure they win. It's cheating, plain and simple. And if they're going to cheat, we're not going to play.
All right. So, Matt, where do you think this story is headed?
Oh, we are prepared very, very clearly to go as far as we can with this. Look, I'll say on one thing. Tallarico, if he's smart, needs to use this to boost his Senate bid, right? Like this is prime time for him. If he doesn't use this, like he seems to be, raise money, get name ID, he's stupid. Number one. Number two, look, I think our party has flashbacks, again, not to bring 2018 back into this, but I was at the NRCC, and 6 months before Election Day, the Supreme Court in state of Pennsylvania, 6 months before Election Day, changed the map entirely based on a state Supreme Court ruling, and we lost several Republican seats, several. And you look at that, how the Republicans in Texas get the same percentage of the vote statewide that Illinois Democrats get, and our proportions aren't even close to what Illinois Democrats are. Maryland, I mean, I can go on and on. So I think what we view as simply the fact that, it's high time that Democrats got what was coming to them on the redistricting front, and they've been playing this game for years. Mark Elias, who, speaking of the Clinton dossier and then Russiagate and others, have been playing this game at a very different level than we have. And I think that we are ready to do what we need to do to make sure that there's a fair play or a fair playing field to what the Democrats have been doing for the last 5-10 years.
Yeah. Brian, I don't like to turn every story into a media bias story, but Matt is right. The press covers aggressive Democratic redistricting, either not at all or smart or business as usual, and they cover Republican aggressive redistricting as some sort of sham. Here is the Democratic governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, talking about her support for Democratic efforts to fight what's happening in Texas, and then we'll get Brian's reaction. Play that, please, number 8.
I thank them so much for making this journey. You are on the right side of history. And you're not alone. We are in solidarity with each and every one of you and your colleagues in another state hosted by my great friend, J.B. Pritzker, who welcome you as well. As I said, history will judge us on how we respond to this moment. But here in New York, we will not stand on the sidelines with the timid souls on the sidelines who don't care, will not invest their heart and soul into this battle. This is a war. We are at war. And that's why the gloves are off, and I say.
Brian, how would you appraise your party's efforts to fight what's going on in Texas?
Well, she said the gloves are off. This is outrageous, was finishing that sentence, by the way. To Matt's point, I mean, look, I'm in California. I'm going to have a progressive view today. I just want to put that out there. I'm going to be hardcore about it. We have a specific date and time, a period of time that we do on the decade redistricting. That is just a fact of the matter. And quite frankly, I'm just going to say it. Democrats have sucked at it before. And just because that we've got aggressive in the last one and got our shit together, it really changed the way Democrats started playing offense with regards to playing redistricting and what that was about. Historically, we have been awful at redistricting and being organized for redistricting. And in the 2020 timeframe, that changed. Whatever you want to bring in Mark Elias or anybody else into the process and everything, yes, it was an orchestrated way to go about the organization of redistricting. This with Texas and everything, I wouldn't be surprised if it spreads to Florida, spreads to other. I mean, DeSantis was already talking about it. There are other states in particular that are red states that could go about doing this. But I think Democrats could then do it just on the flip side of that. Quite frankly, in New York, you could run the table in New York and pass, Democratic redistricting right now. You could do the same thing. And by the way, those seats in New York to win the current midterm that we have, those seats in New York and the seats here in California, by the way, can tilt a majority.
Yeah.
So if they want to play that, play that. But I would say don't, focus on the decade redistricting. That's when we have it. That's when we can go about doing this. But if you're gonna play this game now, yes, Democrats are going to get organized.
I'm glad actually you brought up New York because I forgot to mention New York. They tried that in 2022 as well. And the legislature tried to draw new maps in New York. They would have thrown out, say, Nicole Maliotakis, I think maybe Claudia Tenney upstate, one or something like that. And the courts thankfully threw that out as well. So it's funny, again, Illinois and New York, the two places they go are either the scene of the most worst completed gerrymandering and then an attempt just a couple of years ago to get it done.
Yeah.
There.
Brian, again, I just say, like, I get the talking point. Mid decade is like somehow worse than otherwise, but isn't this all just hardball, like redistricting power? If you control it, you do it. As Matt said, Maryland, Illinois, Democrats have been pretty tough in those states. What does it matter if it's mid?
Listen, 100%. I'm just saying that both parties could stand to be able to recognize when we should be doing this, and redistricting shouldn't be an every 2-year process. And Democrats do it fairly. Democrats do it and Republicans do it. But you just can't sit back if one party acts that way. You can't sit back and be able to say, like, hands up and, we're not going to participate. So unfortunately, and Matt, great point, by the way, unfortunately, this is where we are. We're in this back and forth tug of war, that now takes place every 2 years, not every 10 years, 2 years.
Yeah. All right. A little sidebar here. Early in my career, I was in the newsroom at ABC News in New York, and John McWethy, who was one of the best correspondents I ever worked with, he covered national security. He was in New York for some reason. He was doing a live shot from the newsroom, even though Peter Jennings was like 20 feet away. He was doing a live shot from across the newsroom. And I looked over as he started talking, and a light that was, lighting his live shot fell right towards him, and he had to jump out of the way. And I learned from that, if you're doing a live shot, you got to be ready for anything. And I always tell young correspondents, like, be ready. Assume your IFB is going to go dead. Assume you're not going to be able to see anything. It's going to be windy. Assume a light's going to fall. Like, if you assume anything can happen, then when something happens, you're ready. And I do stand-ups and anchor shows all over the place with very little preparation. And like the other day, I was doing it from the Delta Sky Lounge, and I thought I settled into a nice corner area, but some lady came and sat down like the chair next to me. I guess she didn't care that I was anchoring a show, and she's like reading her book. She had a physical book, just like what kind of person who reads a physical book, and she starts shushing me. We're in an empty lounge. It wasn't like she had to sit there, and she started shushing me. So my point is, when you're doing live, things could happen. I was doing a live hit for TV last summer in Washington. And I went around the corner from where I left my dinner, and I from some building, and I set it up. It turned out it was a senior center, and the elderly people in the senior center were coming out for a walk, and they would not walk behind me on the sidewalk because they were used to walking on that side. So they all walked right through my shot. It was like, make way for ducklings. They all walked right through. Anyway, my point is, when you set up a live shot, especially if you don't have a producer, but even if you do, anything can happen. Here is an MSNBC reporter reporting from Texas, and a gentleman named Alex Stein. Matt probably knows who Alex Stein is. He's on the Blaze. Alex Stein decided to participate in the live shot. This is long, but worth every second. Please roll number 6.
We just watched the speaker gavel out with a whole lot of anger, Kelly. Here's the state of play. Here's
MSNBC sucks.
Hey, how are you?
MSNBC sucks.
Can I talk to you for a second?
MSNBC sucks.
You can see.
Okay.
You can see the frustration.
Sometimes this happens, and we understand that can happen. And while we love free speech, we're going to keep control here. So, Ryan, thank you. Shaq, thank you. A volatile story. We'll be following it. And apparently, not only Shaq cleaned up. Okay. Stay with us here because Ryan has cleared the set, as we would like to say. The gentleman moved on. So, Ryan, let me turn
Spoiler alert,
back to
he
you.
hasn't cleared the set.
Nicely handled there. Can you give us an update on, as you were walking us through this, we'll all take a breath there. Maybe not. Okay. Go ahead, Ryan. See,
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah. Okay. We're just going to pull the plug there. Thank
Kelly,
you,
this
Ryan.
is all playing out in real time.
It sure
Passion
is
high.
Yes.
There's a whole lot of anger here, as you can see. So we're going to get a control of this and come back to you when we can.
Fair enough, fair enough. And we recognize people are expressing their views, and we're there to cover it. You do that job. We'll move on with our audience. Thanks for your patience with all of
All right, now I oppose the guy ruining the live shot. He shouldn't do that. I did enjoy when the producer said, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" Like he was going to trick the guy off the set. It's dangerous to be doing live shots out there, but that guy should not have done that. I denounce his doing that in the strongest possible terms. Brian, thoughts?
Well, I look, this is where we are right now. I don't think any of this should surprise anyone. I mean, as Governor Hochul pointed out, this is red hot right now. I think that there is a lot, but on both sides, I think there's an equal amount of outrage right now. I don't think it's surprising. I think that's what we should expect going forward. And I think the gloves are off. I mean, this is just not a time for civilized debate. I think you're just going to get into situations like this that are unavoidable. And that includes the media and live media in that point too. I mean, Matt, I don't know what you think, but I'm not surprised by any of it right now.
I'm not. And I'll say this, what's ironic about it is, so I'll give you some DC info. Mark knows this too. There's a big building right across the street from the Capitol that houses most of the DC bureaus for NBC, Fox News. CNN is not there. They're down the street. News Nation, if you watch News Nation.
C-SPAN.
C-SPAN as well. So for the last week or so, there's been a very loud protest for Gaza outside of that building. So much so, like, for example, go watch Meet the Press clips from this past weekend. They're in a different studio. You can still hear it. You can hear sirens and banging and stuff like that, even still. So they have to figure that out. So these guys cannot catch a break. Now, I don't know. I mean, NBC has a street side studio, so I don't know what they're going to do about that. If they're using it, if they're not using it, I have no idea. But yeah, it doesn't affect. I don't think Fox is too far up, and MSNBC, like I think where that was being filmed, you couldn't hear it most likely. So it's probably they probably figure out a way to get around it, but they can't catch a break. Seems like.
All right, again, raise your hand if you want in on the conversation. Now, I'm going to tell you about my favorite incident of somebody disrupting a live shot. And if somebody can find it on YouTube or somewhere on the web, please put it in the chat. I search all the time for it. I can't find it. This was the day George W. Bush was taking his first campaign trip from Austin as a presidential candidate, and he's going to Iowa. And a lot of national reporters was there, and I was there. I was on the plane, and Rick Burke, who was then the senior political correspondent for the New York Times, was doing a live shot from the side of the plane, even though we were supposed to leave like pretty soon, right around the time he was doing it. But Brian Williams booked him, and he decided to do it. So he's standing on the tarmac, doing his two-way with Brian Williams, and the motorcade pulls up, and Bush gets out of the car and walks over to the live shot and starts doing like funny faces behind Rick Burke. Fantastic bombing. What's that called? Photo bombing by the candidate himself. And then Rick snagged him for an interview, and they got on the plane, and the rest is history because, spoiler alert, he's elected the 43rd president of the United States after that hijinks. I think it was the hijinks that did it. All right, gentlemen. A few other things. Ray Dalio today tweeted that number 10, that the BLS horrible, that the BLS has a bad job at doing stats. I don't need to read the whole thing to you, but he said, but if the president fired her because BLS is bad at its job, good. But he should say that, because the conventional wisdom in the media, next slide, is he fired her because he didn't like her numbers, right? And it's true that the White House has largely said fired her because BLS isn't doing a good job. Anyway, that'll continue to play out. Here is Mike Johnson in Jerusalem at the Wailing Wall, number 11.
Mike Johnson, the 56th Speaker of the House of Representatives in America. We're here with a delegation of members of the House. We're so grateful to be in Israel, particularly on this day, recognizing the destruction of the two temples and two times in history. But it is such a moving time for us to be here at the Wailing Wall. We've offered our prayers. We put our notes into the wall as is traditional. And we're so moved by the hospitality of the people and the great love of Israel. Our prayer is that America will always stand with Israel, and that we will we pray for the preservation and the peace of Jerusalem. That's what Scripture tells us to do. It's a matter of faith for us and a commitment that we have. God bless you.
You guys been to the Wailing Wall?
No.
Brian, you been there? It's kind of incredible, I have to say. All right, here is number 12. This is Sarah Huckabee, who's also in Israel now, governor of Arkansas, whose dad is, of course, the ambassador from the United States to Israel. There she is with Mike Johnson today. Here is Elizabeth Warren, who's long ago endorsed Mr. Mondami, but now campaigning with him on a day when the New York Times runs a story about how much Jews like Mr. Mondami. Interesting piece. Please roll number 13.
When someone stands up and says, I will lead this city by making it more affordable, and here are my plans, real plans, plans to deliver on childcare, plans to deliver on housing, plans to deliver, we're going to experiment, we're going to try things on groceries. That is the Democratic message.
So she says he's the future of the party. Brian, if 0 is 0 chance and 100 is mortal lock, what's the % chance he'll be elected mayor?
Oh God, I'm not a socialist.
You're only 3,000 miles away, Brian.
Yeah, I'm not a socialist, but I do think that he's doing the typical playbook, which is to try to bring himself back to the middle. I don't think Elizabeth Warren accomplished that today, quite frankly. I thought he needs less of Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, AOC. He needs less of that. He needs more of the middle to take him there. And I just don't think it's going to fly. But look, he's leading in all the polls still. And so I think it's pretty much inevitable if he could just maintain some consistency. But again, I'm not a socialist. People are who they are, and they always change their stripes, just like Gavin Newsom's doing right now. They always change their stripes ahead of a general, and this is more of the same of that.
Matt Gorman, you want to put a number on it?
Ooh, as of today, 80%.
80%. Okay.
Yeah.
Decent number. All right, here's a new announcement video for a young lady running for governor in South Carolina. Please roll 14.
The House Republican has drawn the ire of both Democrats and members of her own party.
She has a way of getting under their skin.
Representative Nancy Mace. Firebrand Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace.
She's a fighter. I know about that. She's a fighter.
She learned resilience early on. Mace became the first woman to graduate from South Carolina's famed military college.
You've taken a lot of abuse for standing up for the rights of women.
But what they forget is that, Laura, I'm the first woman to graduate from the Citadel. I will not be bullied into silence.
Nancy Mace scores a huge victory in her fight to keep biological men out of women's bathrooms.
We will be courageous. We will be resilient.
When she sets her sight on something, she's tough.
And we will be prepared to take on the challenges of this historic moment.
I know you both well enough watching you watch that you agree with me. That's a damn good video, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think she like fits that electorate so well, and I think she's going to do really well because of it. Mark, if you remember, our friend Rahm Emanuel said, which I agree with, and Nancy Mace has said the same thing. We need to be more about the classroom, not the bathroom.
Yeah,
that's just a pushback on that particular issue, but I think she strikes a tone with the residents of South Carolina, and I think she's going to be a fit.
Matt, if you were running the RGA, would you sign off on that one?
I mean, yeah, I think that's going to be a crowded primary, so she's going to have her work cut out for her.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was a good ad. And look, I mean, she loves cable news. She loves getting on TV. And in the Trump era, it's an effective campaign mechanism. You need to be content creators if you're running for certainly national office, but even a high profile governorship or senator seat. And she fits the bill.
Yeah, she was on the wrong side of Donald Trump, and now she's on the right side, and you got to be there if you want to win the primary. All right, lastly, this is not as long as we'd like it to be, but here's the president today. Again, the only video of the day. I think we saw of him. The last thing, then we'll go to your questions, so please raise your hand. Here he is greeting the White House interns and asking them if any of them would like his job.
Does anybody want to be president? Only one president.
All right. All right. Time for your questions. Please raise your hand if you want in on the conversation. As I bring you in, please unmute. Tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind for our two great guests. Oh, what happened there? There you go. Steve, welcome in. Thank you for joining.
Howdy. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Welcome in.
I'm from Southern Utah. I used to live in Oregon, and I want to point out a kind of an inverse analogy to the whole Texas redistricting, all the Democrats leaving for states to keep from being arrested. Oregon had the same problem about 4 or 5 years ago, where the House or Senate GOP, I get which, they all took off to Idaho, and the governor tried to get them arrested, hauled them back into the state. Eventually, they came back, but Oregon then passed a law saying that if you have unexcused absences, you are no longer eligible for the Senate or the House. So this stuff's been going on all along. You look at the Oregon map, district maps. It looks like there are straws going into the Portland area to be able to pull votes out of the Portland area. It's a shame. I'd like it to be more fair. It isn't. It's never going to be. Political parties are going to wield power in ways that are acceptable. And gerrymandering has been acceptable since Eldridge Gerry back in the 18th century. It's the way it is.
Yes, sir. Do you have a question, or you just want to hit us with that depressing
reality? I just wanted to point that out. That
yes, sir.
Okay. For all the screaming and, on both sides, both parties do it.
Yep.
They do it all the time. And This isn't the first time that a party has left the state. I think they did it. One of the states, the Dems left the state to prevent the passage of the 14th Amendment.
Yep.
And the governor of the state hired Pinkerton agents to haul them back from out of state and force them to stay in session. So this happens all the time.
Thank
We're
you,
just
Steve.
seeing it again.
Thank you, Steve. Brian.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with Steve. I think that the statement is well placed because I really think that this has happened and been ongoing. I think the situation is just getting worse, quite frankly, outside of on the decade redistricting. So it's not surprising. Again, I expect for other states to follow Texas. I don't think that this is like an anomaly that is just going to be just Texas doing this. I think others are going to weigh in as well. The president was very clear, by the way, last week, if you remember. I wish we had that soundbite, but the president specifically said he wanted to create a permanent majority. And those were the terms that he used. And, it's no secret that that's the purpose of both parties, right? Is to solidify your lead or solidify races and where they are. As Democrats, Mark, and remember this, there's been a lot of members of Congress from the same parties that really don't like the 80 and 90 percentile of the votes that they get. They're actually can be pretty critical of that because it's really not representative of their district or of the state. So, there has been talk about this all along. It's a sore subject in both parties, but it's also, as you know, a major underlying strategy.
Yep. Matt Gorman.
What I'm watching for is if, and I think when, the Supreme Court is going to take up the clause of the Voting Rights Act, Title II. I think it's going to get overturned. And then you're going to see a deluge of lawsuits. We're going to be doing this all next year and years to come if that gets overturned. That's one thing I'm watching very closely. Obviously, it doesn't matter much in Oregon per se, but states down south, that is going to be a huge deal.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's welcome in Brian. Brian, can you come out of the wilderness here? For those of you who are relatively new to the platform, Brian runs Chapin Road Farm in Rhode Island, and it's an incredible, incredible place. Brian, tell folks the purpose of the farm who don't know.
So we're a nonprofit farm that helps support people with multiple sclerosis, MS, like I have. The big thing, it's been an exciting couple months at the farm. We're officially a nonprofit. we've got a board of great people with MS, and we're building a community of people with MS. One of our big goals is when you first get diagnosed, it's really overwhelming. And I remember at Mass General getting diagnosed, the first thing I asked for was to talk to someone who'd been living with MS. And it wasn't available, even at Mass General Hospital, one of the best hospitals in the world.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was the motivation behind starting the farm. And it's been going great. We're applying for our 501c3, but right now, if you go to GoFundMe and search Chapin Road Farm, we started our first little donation thing now that we're a nonprofit. But, you know, there was people here with MS yesterday. There's a woman coming from Springfield tomorrow. You know, that's just really excited. You know, she lives in the city. You know, MS is a very isolating disease. You know, so it's been really great to, you know, and we have a farm now, which is crazy. You know, when I first started, you know, we didn't have any of this. So a big thanks to the two-way community too.
Well, Brian, thank you for the update. It's the best way for people to contribute to go to the GoFundMe page now?
Yeah, right now, until we get our 501c3, we're just doing a smaller side nonprofit to do some of the. I got to speak to a big group of people with MS last week, and so we're gonna raise a little bit of money, you know, to do a big, you know, gathering of people, like 30 or 40 people with MS, to come to the farm and, you know, pitch ideas about you know, what we could do to help, you know, and just, but it's been great. It's been an exciting first season for sure.
Really
but
exciting.
yeah, if you go to GoFundMe and type in Chapin Road, we also have t-shirts, which is cool. And you know, those, I think you could find that link on the GoFundMe too.
Brian, thank you.
Brianna, our
really,
welder and secretary now for the nonprofit, set it up.
Very proud of you, Brian, for building what you've built. And Matt or Brian, any questions you want to ask Brian?
I think the first time I came on the
Brian,
platform was Halloween last year, and
Brian, hold on one second. I'm going to see if the other Brian or Matt want to ask you.
Oh yeah. I forgot we have two Brians.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, thank you for the work that you're doing. It's so important. You know, keep at it, and I'll be going to that GoFundMe for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate that. And we're going to do a couple little fundraiser farm dinners this fall, if anyone's interested in coming up to the farm. So,
Matt Gorman, you need any vegetables? Or
the tomatoes are coming in. We got pumpkins. We got a lot of stuff. So,
all good. Thanks for what you do.
Yeah, Brian, grateful to you. Come back regularly. Keep us informed. And I'm still waiting for my carrots, but can't rush carrots. They grow at the pace they want to grow. Daryl, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are what's on your mind for Brian and Matt. I'm just doing this all wrong. Let's try again. There we go. Go ahead, Daryl.
Good evening, guys. Daryl from Pennsylvania, outside of Philly. I just wanted to see what you guys thought about. It seems like there's a sea change going on, especially on the Democrat side, in regards to attitudes towards Israel. You know, Ro Khanna seems to be going pretty hard, trying to restrict arms shipments. I don't know how successful he would actually be, but you know, it seems like some Democrats are now able to read a poll of their own constituents and realize that Israel is not exactly popular. But then there's just tremendous support still from elected Democrats. You know, what are your thoughts on that? And also, on this the same backdrop, there's something going on today with DHS released some guidance on giving aid to states and municipalities who boycott Israel. And after some backlash, it seems like they removed that language this evening. So it's going on both sides.
Yeah, that I don't know about. I'll do some looking. But Matt and Brian, Matt first. It is the case that there's on the far left and on the far right, the MAGA right, they're definitely different in public opinion than the pro-Israel consensus that existed for so long. Matt.
No, there is a dividing line. I mean, I could speak from Republicans. I mean, really the 35, maybe pushing 40 and above, far more supportive of Israel, deferential to Israel and their kind of goals. Folks who kind of have a memory of the Bush era and that, I think. Where under 35, people in my party are much more skeptical of that. And I think that is something that, it's far, 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 far more acute on the left, but it's something that you can't discount on the right either.
Brian.
Yeah, I mean, Daryl, you bring up a great point. I think there's there's a difference in the approach. I think there's a weariness amongst the approach to Israel. President Trump has kind of said, we've got this. And, he sort of played up his relationship with Netanyahu. We've really not made any more progress with pulling Israel back from a regional type war that is going on. That's just not Gaza. So I think there's some waning support there that is apparent. I don't really like it because it makes Democrats look weak on Israel. And I don't really think I really don't think that is the case as much as it is a little bit of weariness about, where we are and that this has gone on for that long. I mean, if you look at what's really going on in Gaza right now, and, they've just pummeled them. And I think there's got to be a time where we've got to say, like, okay, hands off, and, let's really it's time to bring it back around. But a little bit like, Vladimir Putin, I just really don't see a lot of what the president has promised and pitched with regards to his even he's stepping back from Russia now. And he's even, threatening Netanyahu now. So that was very different tone for the president. If you look at what was happening 6 months ago, he was very supportive of what they were doing, but it was like, wrap it up. He was like, do what you need to do, but wrap it up. And that's just not taking place.
Why haven't Democrats have more of a backbone and say that, have more criticism? There are some, and Ro Khanna is a recent person, like I just mentioned, who's kind of going hard on it. I know he has presidential aspirations, but
I'd say 3 reasons. One is a lot of them believe it. A lot of them believe that support for Israel is a bedrock principle of American foreign policy, only strongest ally, only democracy in the region. 2 is the financial support of AIPAC and other groups that are very powerful, who give an enormous amount to Democrats and Republicans to support Israel. And then finally, I think Matt's analysis of the electorate is true of a lot of the members. For a lot of these older Democratic members, they've never known anything but reflexive support for Israel. The story that Daryl raised, which we had missed, Daryl, thank you. It's pretty interesting. I'll read you the first 2 paragraphs of the Reuters summary. Trump administration on Monday reversed course on requiring U.S. cities and states to rebuke boycotts of Israeli companies in order to receive disaster funds, according to a statement, and deleted the earlier policy from its website. DHS removed its statement that said states must certify that they will not sever, quote, commercial relations specifically with Israeli companies to qualify for the funding. I wonder why they had the initial policy, and then I wonder why they reversed it.
It was going crazy today on Twitter or X on the right wing,
saying that it was too pro-Israel a policy.
I mean, it's clearly Israel first. It's like, oh, you want emergency funding? Okay, you have to swear allegiance to Israel first.
Yeah, I wonder where it came from initially. Interesting. Daryl, thank you for raising that, and thank you for coming on and for being. I'll say one thing I love about Daryl, because he's been on before and raised a series of questions about Israel. Daryl is a reasonable, rational, calm voice representing the views of tens of millions, which is to say, maybe the United States needs to rethink the longstanding bipartisan policy reflexively in support of Israel. Perfectly reasonable position. Doesn't seem like a socialist, terrorist, vegetarian, segregationist. Just seems like a normal guy. So
I'm a normal MAGA
yeah.
guy, and thank you for saying that, Mark. Appreciate
Daryl,
it.
thank you. Grateful to you. And you're a MAGA guy, but there, Bernie Sanders could come on here and support her and could say virtually the same thing. Because again, there's this confluence on the left and right. Brian, what are you looking for this week? Either topics we just discussed this evening or just in general? What are the things that you're kind of tracking?
Well, I mean, I think it's obvious because there's so many issues out there right now, but I think Matt brought it up first, and I would just agree with him that I think the Russia issue is a big issue. It's going to get bigger. I'm tracking it left and right because I really think that that's going to be something that, it matures over time, and where it goes, we don't know. But it is kind of really the first thing as far as an investigative, action by DOJ and others to create this and move it forward. I think it's the first thing that's really had teeth. Everything else to me has been more distraction related, and this is not really distraction related.
Matt, what are you tracking?
In the immediate and very tactical sense, look, every trade agreement that's been agreed so far has had friction at the very, very end and then the breakthrough. So if that trend holds, do we see an India trade deal come in the near future? And I think you kind of hit this, and I know it's probably proving a negative per se, but there's always a story in August that we don't expect. Everybody thought Steve would be the thing. It's a load of crap, that this was going to live on for a month. No. There will be something that will dominate cable news. It'll be sexy for reporters and anchors to cover, like you said at the top. Political, maybe not. I don't know, but something will fill that void. I'm very curious what it is.
Yeah. All right. Me too. Me as well. Lastly, tomorrow on Next Up, amongst my guests on my show on the Megyn Kelly Media Network, is Corey Lewandowski, longtime Trump advisor, Corey Lewandowski. Matt, give me a suggested question. What should I ask Corey Lewandowski?
Let me see here.
You got an index card with Lewandowski questions?
I know you're gonna file that away.
Yeah.
Let me. I'll get back.
All right, get back to me, Brian. You got any Lewandowski questions ideas?
No, I don't have any.
No. All right, but you're looking forward to the interview
because
it's been a while since you've seen Corey do an interview. Hopefully,
100%.
Hopefully he won't cancel over my touting it. Anyway, my guests include Corey Lewandowski, and the mayor of Detroit City will be my guest tomorrow. And in 20, not 20 hours, and a few hours, 14. I'm bad at math. 14 hours. The morning meeting will begin. Dan, Sean, and I will be here rounding up the day, and this program will be on inexplicably once again, unless the network suits cancel us at 6 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow. So we'll see you all then. Matt and Brian, couldn't be more grateful to you both for coming back again, and we hope you'll return regularly. Thank you both. Have better things to do than be on this show, and yet you choose to come on. We're grateful to you for that. Grateful to you all for watching. Thank you for being part of the two-way community. Again, if you want to help Brian with the farm, great cause, Chapin Road, go to GoFundMe and search Chapin Road Farm. It'll pop right up. Buy a T-shirt. Send Brian some support. It's an incredible cause, and really, we've always envisioned two-way as a way to bring people together, great community. And Brian has done all this by himself, but it's been nice to be an observer and to watch it grow and to watch the support from the two-way community. I can't tell you how often people continue to mention Brian and the farm to me, and as part of the potential power of this platform. We're trying to use technology not to divide, but to bring folks together, not just around the country, but around the world. And we can do that around political talk or pretty much anything else, including farming. So please stay part of the two-way community. Please come back tomorrow, 9 a.m. To see the morning meeting. And again, this program, 6 o'clock tomorrow night. Very grateful to everybody for being part of the show. Have a good evening, everybody.